All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless Dave here on the Harmless Dave channel, talking about real stuff, music related content with conspiracy over or undertones. I don't know what kind of tones, they're just tones. They're pleasant tones. No, they're not. They're irritating to some people, but here I am doing what I do in real time for a few people out here, just like you and just like me. If you feel, like you're generous, the holiday season is coming, think about supporting the channel. Buy me a coffee. I know people are broke, they're running around, but they're still buying things. So, a few bucks for a coffee would be awesome because I am drinking quite a bit, as I always do. So, today marks the 34th anniversary of the passing of the great Freddie Mercury. And when I say great, I really believe he was probably the best frontman in the history of rock bands. I mean, who's better than Freddie Mercury, right? Um, they've tried to replace him over the years, and they have these American Idol type people showing up, and some of them do a pretty good job. But there was nobody like Freddie. I remember Paul Rogers was in Queen for a while. It was Queen plus Paul Rogers. That was interesting, but it didn't compare to Freddie's time in Queen, one of the great rock bands of all time. And what you're going to be told is that, yeah, Freddie stopped taking his medication about 2 weeks prior to his death. Now, this is old news, but what I've learned is that the drug AZT isn't exactly a great treatment. And if you dig into it, you're going to find some similarities to what we've been encountering recently. And I won't get into too much detail, but I think you know where I'm going. With a certain product that was told or said to be super safe and effective. All right. And a lot of the commentary surrounding the death of Freddie Mercury has to do with, well, he was taking this stuff which was keeping him alive, and then he stopped taking it. Why did he stop taking it? He didn't want to be alive anymore? No. Most of the headlines read like this. They say he wanted to be in control of the disease. So if this was working for him, which you could see when he began to deteriorate, and toward the end there, he did not look well. He was taking this stuff when he was not looking well. What's weird is Magic Johnson, right around the same time, ended up having the same issue. And Magic is still with us, right? But Freddie is not. I wonder what the difference was. I wonder why Magic is still here, but Freddie passed away 2 weeks after supposedly not taking this so called medication anymore. Peter Freestone, who was Freddie Mercury's personal assistant, uh, has put out this narrative. He did an interview back in 2019 talking about how, he stopped taking the medication. Peter spoke of his friendship with Freddie and his ongoing work to educate young people around the globe about HIV/AIDS, which he says still kills and is never mentioned. I wonder if it's the treatments or if, I mean, why can some people manage this and some people can't? Again, Peter, who was his personal assistant, says he knew, meaning Freddie, that his death was coming soon or coming at the end. Freddie pictured here with Peter, there's a photo. I'm not going to show it, but lovingly called him Phoebe for some reason, making Freddie's life easier by undergoing everyday chores so the singer could create music. Freddie was making music right to the end. In fact, there was kind of a Queen resurgence happening in the early 90s. And the music, I think, was a little more aggressive, a little more straightforward, sounded like vintage Queen. I mean, Queen, if you listen to their albums, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to them. They embrace a lot of different styles, and it worked really well. Um, but you could always tell when Brian May was playing and when Freddie was singing, that band, the whole band was really talented. Um, but they kind of go on and on. They don't talk about the medication that he was on. They don't talk about maybe that was the culprit. See, we're supposed to trust the experts. We're supposed to just look the other way when people say, hey, it wasn't the medication. It was the fact that he stopped taking the medication. We don't know what kind of side effects the medication had. I know there have been deep dives into AZT, and it's kind of scary. And by the way, a certain doctor who you knew quite well a few years ago, who's been somewhat shamed off the national stage, but I believe is still doing speaking engagements and charging top dollar to tell everybody what a hero he is. Well, he was around during this era and supposedly was on the forefront of advocating for AZT, which, quite honestly, I think was much like the issue that we had a few years ago and still having in some states because people are still using this stuff. They're not using it in vast numbers, but they're certainly still out there trusting the science. That's what they're doing. They have to trust the science, man. So it's just a little disturbing how this same person was there for the AIDS crisis and advocated for this particular drug. And I've been told that this probably ended up speeding up Freddie's demise more than it did as far as helping him. And there's a certain protocol that we were told that once you got into the hospital, you needed to go on a ventilator and then you needed to take a certain medication. And these hospitals are just following a flow chart that's given to them from the CDC. And they're just trusting that this is going to work. And what's weird is in the medical community, years ago, when something wouldn't work, rather than just keep going with it, they would say, you know what, we're supposed to do no harm, so let's take him off this and try something else. But you weren't allowed to do that. In fact, if you spoke certain words out loud about certain medications, you were banned off of entire platforms. Kind of insane, right? Well, this was the narrative back in 1991. This is the only hope for people who have AIDS. So you have to take this. And sure enough, it wasn't the only hope because you know what? Didn't work. And you don't hear about it anymore, do you? I'm sure there are other treatments that are effective in helping people with HIV/AIDS. Hence, Magic Johnson wouldn't still be here now, would he? So we should remember Freddie Mercury as being one of the best, if not the best, overall front men fronting a rock band. Unbelievably charismatic, an unbelievable singer, a great interpreter of this music that the band would create. And nobody's been able to fill his shoes since he's not been here. And I say this all the time. I mean, we're not getting any replacements. I know they've had certain people fill in and be part of Queen, but I'm sorry, it's just not the same as Freddie Mercury. He was a giant. He could have sung a number of other genres. He could have been an opera singer. He could have been a lounge singer. He could have done jazz. He could have. There's not anything, maybe not country. Freddie Mercury goes country, probably not, but there are a lot of different music styles that I think he would just fit right into and not sound weird at all. But anyway, 34 years. Time goes by rather quickly, and Queen is still beloved, and their greatest hits album still selling like hotcakes. And every so often, there's a Queen resurgence. So you can't blame people for loving great music. You know what I mean? So anyway, this coffee for the memory of the great Freddie Mercury, and I hope you put on some Queen today to reflect on his life and his unfortunate early and maybe unnecessary passing at age 45.